So next in the schedule today, we have this week's very first Fireside chat with Kyriacos Koupparis to discuss exactly how the World Food Programme is innovating when it comes to blockchain. So let's welcome Kyriacos and our moderator, Helen to the stage. Helen is the head of Binance NFT, so please let's welcome them to the stage.
Thank you.
Here.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to this session. We are going to talk about, I'm Helen and this is Kyriacos, is from World Food Programme. It is my great pleasure to seeing all of you today. Are you ready for this session? I don't hear it. Are you ready for this session? Thank you. So this session, we are going to talk about we're at a crossroads of charity and technology. I think you're all passionate about what this technology should change the world. And today, actually, it's our great honor to invite Kyriacos, actually from World Food Programme, to talk about actually how the big organization is doing using blockchain. So why don't you introduce World Food Programme and also yourself, please?
Great, thanks Helen. Hi everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite. My name is Kyriacos. I work at the World Food Programme Innovation Accelerator as the head of Frontier Innovations. The World Food Programme, as many of you know, is the world's largest humanitarian organization. We provide life-saving assistance to more than 130 million people worldwide in the 80+ countries in which we operate. The Innovation Accelerator is the innovation hub for the World Food Programme. So we source, support, and scale innovations that might have an impact to help deliver our mission in the field, both in terms of humanitarian assistance and food security. My role in particular is looking at frontier technologies, specifically artificial intelligence, blockchain, and robotics. So I'm always on the lookout for how we can apply technology to deliver greater impact. And we work both with internal teams on the blockchain side, how can we leverage this technology for our own operations, and then we also work with startups. So if there are any startups out here in the audience and you think you have a solution that might be able to help us achieve our mission of zero hunger, please reach out. I would love to hear from you.
Thank you. That's very inspirational. I've been heading up the Binance charity since 2018 at its inception. If you ask me what is our fundamental values, I wanted to say we believe technology should work for people. Why is that? I think post-Second World War, we all know there's about 200 developing economies globally. But if we look at how the world being changed, in the second industrial revolution in Asia, my generation witnessed the largest poverty reduction. 600 million people in China has been lifted out the poverty line. But let's look at what happened in the third industrial revolution, which is internet-based. 1% of the population started holding 90% of the global wealth. The world didn't become a better place. Today, we're on the fronting line to shape the fourth industrial revolution. This is something we're so passionate at Binance. We believe it is a time this is the best time actually for the greater promise. We need to shape actually the equality, how the world structure. We don't want to leave our future generation just some single wealth. We want to leave them a better world, a more equal world going forward. So this is something I'd like to ask you. From the World Food Programme perspective, how do you think the equality going to change using blockchain?
Excellent question, Helen. As I mentioned, as the world's largest humanitarian organization, equity and poverty are things that we consider quite intently. I think what's interesting about blockchain is this idea of decentralizing wealth and enabling a lot of people to participate in the global economy that perhaps previously could not do so. We heard earlier from the previous panel the idea of financial inclusion that can potentially be enabled by blockchain technology. Now, the promise is there. I don't think we've seen that happen at scale. There are multiple barriers that are still in the way, from regulatory to digital literacy, connectivity, and other such issues. But I do think that if blockchain does live up to its promise as it was initially envisioned in 2009 by Satoshi, in this concept of decentralization and enabling equal participation in the global economy, I think we really can see a lot of social benefits from it.
That's super great. Steve Jobs once said, innovation distinguishes leaders and followers. I think World Food Program, you've done an amazing job. Can you give the audience some concrete examples of projects you'd like to share with us, which you have been leading the change?
Great, thanks for that question. We started looking at blockchain in 2017. So 5 years ago, which I would argue is quite an early adopter, especially by the standards of a large organization such as the World Food Program. The first application, and perhaps the most famous application of blockchain at the World Food Program, is a project known as Building Blocks, which is essentially enabling the distribution of cash and voucher assistance in Jordan and Bangladesh. This project started off in 2017 as a pilot of 100 people in Pakistan, and since then has scaled to reach over 1 million people in Jordan and Bangladesh and in Lebanon as well. We have also seen enormous cost savings by introducing building blocks in our operations, and we have saved multiple millions of dollars, which has enabled us to then repurpose that funding for additional support. We're also looking at other areas of exploration. We have a pilot going on in Kenya currently with grassroots economics, looking at blockchain-enabled community inclusion currencies and how those might build resilience in communities as well. We've also explored payments with Cello and a project of ours called Impact, where we're combining digital microwork and payments in crypto using the Cello platform to enable participants to receive payments in areas that they couldn't before. Lastly, we've also been exploring the blockchain applications around supply chain. We've started with a small pilot in Ethiopia and Djibouti, looking at the transport corridor between those two countries. And we're also looking at supply chain and traceability in different agricultural value chains. One particular example is a startup that we have supported in Jordan called Koupparis, looking at the dairy value chain, enabling greater transparency that then allows the farmers to collect a higher premium for their dairy products because they are adhering to specific standards that the market is asking for.
This is super amazing, which you addressed a very important point, which is governance and also a good society. I think human beings has been searching for a good society since the beginning. Whether it's a communist, whether it's a socialism, or whether it's a capitalism. Actually, they all started with a good intention. Personally, I think what went wrong is human nature. Because while a group of people, they're taking at the power, things started going to wrong. So this is, I think we enter into a year, human need to work with AI, with machine, actually to think about a new mechanism, a new way of governance, how to blend actually with human being. So we can actually try to avoid the pitfall of human nature with the whole governance. This is why we need to get rid of actually the middle layers. One of the things for traditional charity, some of the figure we actually read, in a traditional good charity, let's say if today I want to donate $100 to a poor girl in Africa, in the traditional charity system, which has been established post Second World War, maximum probably 30% or 25% actually only ends into the hand of that poor girl out of the $100. It's not just due to the corruption, it's because there's a lot of intermediaries cost. Sometimes charity, in order for audit, a 10,000 charity, they probably need to pay 20,000 to pay for PwC for auditing the account. This is why I think technology could come in. Playing a very important role actually to play cost saving, to making the whole process more efficient and more effective. That's why I think we actually enter into a new year of a new technological governance. I would like to seek your view. How World Food Program, looking at that perspective, because in that way we're actually going to get rid of a lot of the middle layers of the traditional charity. How are you welcoming this kind of innovation changes?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. As I mentioned, blockchain definitely enables transparency and efficiency, which we definitely welcome at the World Food Program. I definitely think from an auditing perspective, it enables easier access and transparency for our donors. But at the end of the day, I think in certain circumstances, direct transfers are definitely expedient and efficient. We've seen that with NGOs like Give Directly. We've seen that in the case that was mentioned earlier in Ukraine, where fundraising can happen almost immediately through the use of blockchain applications. I would say, however, though, in many cases, including in the countries in which we work, giving cash in and of itself is not sufficient. So
totally.
While the transparency and efficiencies enabled by blockchain are definitely important in lowering the cost of doing business and enabling the support that NGOs provide across the world, there's also a lot of ecosystem building that needs to happen. So we, for example, at the World Food Program, we work with local markets and retailers to ensure that the people we serve, once they receive the cash, have actually a marketplace to go and purchase whatever needs they see are appropriate for their own families. In addition, there are also other complementary services that also need to be in place in order to ensure resilience in a community, such as healthcare, such as clean water, such as education. So in these instances of public good, I definitely think that the transparency and efficiencies that are enabled by blockchain can be repurposed in supporting the local infrastructure in which many of these donations are ending up.
I'm really glad we share the same vision, because one of the things Binance Charity actually at the beginning we did is to ensure point-to-point donation, which is make sure 100% actually of that $100 going into the hand of that poor girl, in Africa. And we have been very successful in that progress. But actually, I totally agree with you. It's not just about giving money, because actually we all know the story of debt aid. Giving money is not the most important thing. It's actually about the building the infrastructure, about the financial inclusion. I think the previous panel talked about currently the bottom billion people that are actually being excluded from the existing financial infrastructure. They're not customers of the bank. They're not even existed in the current financial system. If we all think, we all believe, the fundamental purpose of blockchain should be in the allowing free transfer of value eventually, that everybody need to be existed in this blockchain world. So actually we are very passionate is to bring in the bottom billion people into the blockchain world, empower them with a crypto ID, because this ID actually is their own identity for the future any value transfer. So this is something we're actually, for Binance Charity, we're very passionate to bring in the bottom billion people in the world, get them actually into the blockchain community. How we can work with World Food Program on that perspective, because you actually has been daily dealing with the bottom billion people, which has been excluded in the existing infrastructure.
Yeah, that's a good point, Helen. And in fact, that's something that I would like to raise here, is that while blockchain and decentralized technologies showcase a lot of promise in the social impact and charity sector, it also poses the risk of exacerbating further divides. So there are millions of people that don't actually have access to the digital infrastructure that is needed for them to benefit from all the amazing use cases that you've just outlined. So for us at the World Food Program, it's really important that we understand access more holistically. And while definitely blockchain can enable the rapid and efficient transfer of cash assistance in the right context, we also have to acknowledge that, for example, we know that women are underrepresented in terms of smartphone and mobile phone ownership, right? So what does that mean in terms of delivering transfers? Digital and data literacy. I think even for many of us in Europe or the US, opening a blockchain wallet and transacting in blockchain is not very intuitive, and many of us are digital natives. So imagine being in a context where digital infrastructure is poor and literacy, not just digital literacy, might also be limited. So I think a lot of these considerations are ones that we look at the World Food Program. So I would encourage anyone in this room, as well as Binance Charity, as we think about enabling access to this amazing technology, we also have to think about these enabling factors, because that's the only way that we can ensure the 1 billion people that you've mentioned can truly participate and really benefit from this technology.
Thank you so much. I think after all, at this technological revolution, at this crossroads, it's all down to people and value. I think technology should work for people. It actually should become the best complement of human nature, which is creativity, sympathy, and compassion, and also partnership. It's our great pleasure actually welcoming you on this panel. Any last word you'd like to share with the audience?
Just again, I wanted to thank Binance Charity for inviting me, and also again an invite to anyone in the audience that would like to work with the World Food Program to please reach out. We're always looking for talent, for startups, for partners to help us build the ecosystem in many of the countries in which we work to ensure that the benefits can be truly democratized globally. So thank you again.
Thank you. Maybe I just quote one thing Nelson Mandela once said: it's always impossible until it's done. So at Binance Charity and all the global organization, we're looking forward to working with all of you to move from that vision to action, dreams to reality. Thank you all.
Well said, Helen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helen and Kyriacos. It is excellent to see how blockchain technology is changing people's lives all around the world.